Hello everybody, we're joined here today with Robyn and Bridget. Robyn's a sports massage therapist, Bridget's sports therapist, as you all probably already know. We're doing a series of videos early on in the year, essentially to show you how we share our knowledge. So within the clinic here at Physical Balance, we've got 13 therapists, 6 different disciplines, and all of the time we're constantly knowledge sharing to try and get the best for you guys. Now, this is our first one. So New Year's resolution time, and lots of us are going to be changing habits during this time. So whether you're preparing for the Winter Olympics or whether you just want to increase your walking during the summer, hopefully COVID's going to be a little bit less affecting in our lives during January onwards. So one of the things we see a lot of the time is New Year's resolutions, and we see lots of people coming into clinic with those. Now what we thought is we'd share a little bit of knowledge to try and prevent that from happening. So really one of the big things we see is people going straight into an activity, straight into running a marathon or whatever it might be. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about what that means. So you guys, you know, what do we tend to see? What do you tend to see, Robyn?
I guess in the new year everyone's sort of super enthusiastic, which is great, but it does sometimes encourage people to go all or nothing. So they're like, oh, I'm going to start running, and you're like, okay, that's fantastic, but then they'll end up running like 5k cold, and they almost sort of risk injury and overuse there, and they haven't sort of prepared themselves and given themselves the time for it, and then your New Year's resolutions almost get cut short because you've gone a little bit too quick out the start, and then you're not able to really finish what you were trying to do because you haven't prepared yourself properly. So I guess sort of for me as a massage therapist, I see a lot of muscles getting quite tight, so people will start running, they may not have the right shoes, which I think you can touch on a little bit later anyway, and they might just do a little bit too much, and then so muscles get really stiff, and then people don't stretch, and then you run on tight muscles, and then you just kind of encourage a bit more injury risk.
And overuse is something we see a lot of. So overuse basically means that you go too hard too soon. It's a bit like if you go to the gym and you hurt the next day, and if you've been going to the gym lots of times, you don't hurt so much the next day. So muscles, that can have a huge effect on joints. So in osteopathy terms, we see lots of joint stiffness at this time of year because of those same overuse injuries. Now, what we want to do probably is a little bit of sharing how do we stop that, how do we stop these people from coming in, and this is probably a little bit more where you come in, Bridget, so if you can give us some tips.
So I suppose one of the major things I see is Achilles. So Achilles tendinopathies tend to be quite a big factor, especially because there's lots of runners tend to get them, and again, if they're suddenly going into running 5-6 times a week when they've never done it before, obviously more common.
So that's going to create a big stretch on the muscle, on the tendon.
Exactly, and can cause irritation, inflammation, etc. around the ankle joint. So so firstly I'd say make sure you're prepped. Preparation is the key. Obviously whether this is training plans, so if you're going to go and do a half marathon, then look on the internet, speak to a running coach, get your half marathon plan, so that you can gradually go through your running stages rather than suddenly going to half marathon.
And
Go
on, no,
I was just going to say, would you encourage like warm-ups, like prehabs and stuff? I mean, I've worked with football teams in the past, and so have you, and they always used to do like a like a prehab, they used to call it, so a stint of exercises to get certain muscles fired up before. Yeah, exactly. So I suppose the best example really is skiing as well. So before skiing, you generally would do a ski prep, so squats, wall squats, things like that to replicate your skiing. So yes, definitely do preparation. This is generally strength and conditioning, so getting in a gym. This obviously complements you, alongside your training programs, regardless of what it is, even if it's going to do basketball, netball, hockey, whatever. The strength and conditioning will prevent your muscles from becoming overused and strengthen them, and then also your stretching as part of that as well. So
would you change that? So if you're Eddie the Eagle or Mo Farah, or if you're just the general old Joe Bloggs, would that be adaptable, do you think? You'd start from a different starting point?
Yeah, so I think you probably would, and it comes down to whether you want to increase your pure strength, your hypertrophy, which is your muscle size, or whether you want to do strength endurance. So those 3 things will have an impact on what sort of rep numbers you might need to do in the gym, and that's where I guess speaking to one of us is obviously useful, speaking to running coaches, etc., to get that number, so that so you're not suddenly doing 20-30 repetitions of a squat when actually you may not need that. You might need to just do only 5 to gain more muscle strength. So I guess it does depend on what your preparation is for what sport that you'd need.
Yeah, and there's some great things you can do at home. You used to do Pilates.
Yeah, I used to teach Pilates online, and there's some really good, so for the stretching wise, there's some really, really good yogas out there. There's a couple of counts I could probably list, but maybe we'll stick them in the
We
comments.
can chuck those in the comments.
Yeah, they're specified specific for runners, or you can do it for certain sports, so they're really quite handy. So we'll list some of those. But I think having that, it almost gives you that time, because we all sit there and go, oh yeah, I should do a bit more stretching, but you don't unless someone really tells you what to do. So having that kind of accountability, even if it's a YouTube person or an app, it's kind of gives you that time to stretch your muscles out.
Sometimes there are stretching classes even in some of the gyms. I know do a specific half an hour or hour stretch class, which is brilliant actually. I've done them before.
So I guess that sort of links into a lot of the injuries we see because people do the same thing. They either just run or they just cycle or they just go to the gym, they just do CrossFit. And one of the pieces of advice I often give is to essentially change up your activities. So go for a swim, go for a jog, go for a bike ride, do different things. And I think you worked with the football teams. And I guess that's something you would have seen quite a lot in professional sport.
Yeah,
and with professional sport, the great thing that we try to achieve here at Physical Balance is that because we've all worked in various different other environments, including professional sport, we can bring that to everyday people. And I think both of you, as I said, worked in professional football. Did they cross-train? Did they swim? Did they all walk?
Absolutely, yeah.
I say the academies that I work for, especially Watford, they used to do ballet as the kids did it. So 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, that sort of age, always did a ballet class, because obviously the balance and the proprioception of your feet, knowing where you are in space and everything, core stability, obviously translated across to being on the pitch. So yes, definitely.
The senior guys, they at Southampton, they'll do Pilates and stuff, because it's not so much about the big muscles that everyone thinks about, it's all about those tiny little stabiliser muscles that make you more secure in your field of sport. So yeah, variety is the spice of life.
Good.
And I think rest and sleep is really underestimated as well. I think people don't give themselves rest days because they feel like they're being lazy because they haven't gone for their run, but actually
rest is huge.
you need to rest to be able to recover properly, to be able to do your sport, and you need to get a decent amount of sleep to be able to recover properly to do your sport. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think all the ballet classes out there are going to be inundated with 50-something-year-old men now.
Thank you.
I think one of the most important things I personally think is that during this you just need to listen to your body. We're really not very good at listening to our bodies, and I'm the same, and I'm sure you would account for this. We're not perfect. If you listen to your body, generally speaking, you'll be able to see if something's going wrong before it gets wrong. Now, if you follow some of that advice, you can probably prevent some of those things. But we're here for advice. The internet's some great places, some great links that we'll share later that can give advice as well. But don't leave things. If you're training for something new and you feel a niggle, act upon that. Whether it's a stretch, whether it's by cross training, whether it's giving it some rest, or whether it's giving some advice from us. I think that's probably the strong advice that
it's the best way to keep doing what you're enjoying to do.
Absolutely, and New Year's resolutions can become real habits and great fun things. That's why we do them. Don't let it become an injury. Is kind of where we be given that advice. All right, good. Well, hopefully you got some information from that and enjoyed, and we'll be sharing some more videos over the next few months. And thank you very much.